Today we have two mystery stories, so sit back and relax. The darkness inside. The darkness clawed at Eileen's sanity, relentless in its pursuit. The weight of deceit gnawed at her soul, eroding her once gentle demeanor. No longer could she bear the facade of pleasantness while they, the townsfolk, adorned their faces with insincere smiles to mask their true intentions. A week had barely passed since her return to her hometown, yet the whispers and sidelong glances absorbed into her skin like icy thorns. Aileen had become the subject of their gossip, their fucking malicious rumors spinning tales of her promiscuity and family legacy. But she knew the truth: the only inheritance she carried was a fiery temper and a lineage tainted with high blood pressure. These were the legacies that haunted her, the ones that the townspeople relentlessly prodded at since her homecoming. She had once dismissed their small-town banter, their stupid fucking words lost in the neglected buildings and pothole-ridden streets that comprised this forgotten corner of existence. Their shallow entertainment fed upon the lie that stained her ordinary life: her father was a murderer. In a place as barely noticeable as this, where half the structure sagged under the weight of neglect, where a single flickering stoplight presided over the desolate roads, and where every 100 feet revealed another gaping pothole. A lie that fucking tore the power to stretch its tendrils across the entire town. Aileen had long ignored their idle chatter until the day came when a particular rumor tarnished her beloved father's name. Aileen simmered with rage as she prowled the aisles of the sole grocery store, eavesdropping on the venomous exchanges that resonated within her ears. Amidst the shelves stocked with faded labels and the weary faces of the townsfolk, her attention was fixated on Patty, the local librarian. Patty, a seemingly modest woman with graying hair and a mischievous grin, appeared engrossed in replenishing her bowl of mints at the checkout. Oblivious to Eileen's presence, Patty took a call, her voice hushed and her gaze shifting towards the back of the weathered building. "She's here," Patty whispered, checking her signal amidst the cold embrace of the cement walls. "I know. Can you believe the nerve?" Aileen rounded the corner, her eyes locking with Patty's. In that moment, it was not Aileen who possessed audacity, but Patty herself. The audacity crumbled beneath Eileen's piercing glare, crumbling like a fragile mask of deceit. It disgusted her that Patty dared to talk about her within earshot. If Patty felt compelled to gossip about Aileen, her father, and the dark traits that coursed through their veins, she should have done so without risking the consequences of facing the truth firsthand. In a swift motion fueled by pent-up fury, Aileen snatched the phone from Patty's grasp and hurled it onto the unforgiving tiles, shattering the device into a cacophony of fractured fragments. "Do you have something to say to me?" Eileen's voice reverberated through the air, laced with a dangerous intensity. Patty trembled, her head shaking vehemently, her mouth gaping wordlessly as peppermint candies slipped from her hands to join the wreckage on the floor. "And no, I was just talking to my daughter," Patty stammered, her voice a trembling whisper. Aileen surveyed Patty's quivering frame, her anger still ablaze. "Does she still work at the flower shop?" Aileen demanded, her tone cutting through the tense atmosphere. Patty's response came in the form of a feeble nod, barely a gesture of affirmation. In this quiet town, outbursts were foreign, alien to social norms. "Well, since you guys think I'm a fucking killer, maybe I will pay her a visit. Bitch and I are going to do her like you guys think my father did those women, so either you can stop running your fucking mouth or you will be prepared to meet me. Bitch, now move out of my fucking way." But the truth is, Eileen's father was not the serial killer. Those are the only words that struck me in the suspect's deposition. Following his interrogation, my informant, a police officer, shared all the new details of the ongoing investigation with me that same morning. "Barry, be careful with this," he told me while handing me a folder. "Look, I just want to find my niece." I replied, He certainly had a strong, negative feeling about the whole situation since he knew me from the Marines. I have never been one to wait for others to resolve a problem for me, especially when I am able to do something about it. Let the fucking police handle it? Out of question for me, therefore, after parting ways with my informant, I drove straight to my house to prepare for my own investigation. Flashlight and phone ready, Desert Eagle loaded, and a picture of my niece in the pocket, I spent the rest of the day boiling with fucking impatience while waiting for the next day to make my move. I could not get my mind off the pictures of the dark footprints taken during the night in some of the missing person cases. At around 3 a.m., I had reached my limit, hopped into my truck, and drove to the destination. The suspect mentioned a wet and abandoned wooden house. I had previously searched for it that afternoon. Upon arrival, despite my military past, an intense feeling of dread robbed me of the daydream I had about my niece. The silence, the darkness, the simplicity of the building's layout, and its dingy state just would not let me see it as just a house. I entered the house with my flashlight in hand, and it turned on to the sounds of the wooden floor creaking. I could not believe my eyes, and I did not remember it like that, but the house was spotless inside, as if a neat and organized person lived there. A few seconds later, I heard running footsteps upstairs, and I immediately unholstered my gun, ready to investigate. I walked up the creaking stairs, conscious that whoever was up there knew I was coming. I found myself facing a window at the other end of a corridor. I approached, taking glances at the closed doors on both sides, until I noticed something strange yet familiar just below the window, 2 bare human footprints facing the window, so dark that they seemed to be burn marks as well on the wooden floor. I crouched and touched one of the footprints. A burning sensation struck my fingers, prompting me to remove my hand. I stood up, intrigued, and looked behind me to ensure that nobody was about to attack me by surprise. I was aware of creaking sounds at that precise moment. I looked back in front of me at the footprints and jumped back in fear when I noticed that they were no longer turned towards the window. They were facing me. I started stepping back, and in complete disbelief, I watched the left footprint disappear then reappear in front of the right one. The right footprint then imitated its left counterpart as I understood that an entity stood before me and was now approaching me with slow steps. I aimed at the emptiness above the footprints and shot while still stepping backwards, not knowing what else to do. Since it did not work, I started shooting at the footprints, to no avail. The moment I tried to reload, the entity ran towards me. 2 dark and hot handprints appeared on the chest area of my jacket when the entity pushed me and sent me flying across the fucking room. I hit the wall behind me, fell, and then rolled down the stairs. I started crawling towards the exit while hearing creaking sounds from almost everywhere, then strange voices, as if I heard them saying my damn name. When I looked behind me, I saw many handprints and footprints covering the floor, walls, and ceiling as many more of those things, some of them walking on 4s, emerged from their hiding places. 2 footprints then landed, each on either side of my waist. I turned on my back and tried to seize the entity, but in vain. It noticed the picture of my niece that had slipped out of my pocket and lifted it as dark fingerprints appeared on it. I snatched it back, angering that freak, which then proceeded to strangle me. I do not know which one was worse, the strangling or the burning. I was on the verge of losing consciousness when I noticed that my flailing arms began to fade or get translucent. In my heart, I apologized to my niece before I blacked out. The pain resulting from the burns on my neck woke me up. I stood up and looked around me in confusion. It was sunrise, and the house was back in its complete madhouse state, with trash, disorder, and dust everywhere. I picked up my gun, my phone, and the picture of my niece, then looked around, unable to spot anything unusual. There was no trace of the entities except for the hand-shaped burn marks on my neck that I saw on the rear-view mirrors of my truck after bolting out of that nightmare. The reason for my survival remains a mystery to this day, just like the whereabouts of my niece. Whether during the day or during the night, I never returned to that house. If you enjoy the content, hit the subscribe button.